In this video, I'm making a slow-cooked goat's milk soap to look like a cracked raw marble in a light golden coral shade. Now today, I'm going to show you a few examples that compare recipes so you can learn just one of the ways that the base oil combination affects your design. For those of you who are already part of the crafters community, the members version of this video that includes the full recipe and printable step-by-step instructions has been posted, and you can find it from your members dashboard by scrolling down to the recipe directory, click on Hot Process, and then find the recipe titled Rose Gold and Coral Goat's Milk Soap. There, you'll have all the supplementary material ready to go. And for those of you who may be new to hot process soap making, welcome. This video is going to cover two hot process tips today. Now the first is a comparison of your base oils. What makes a bright white soap base in your hot process projects, and what makes a yellow or cream soap base. And second, I'm going to give you a few tips on keeping the end of that cook process from getting too thick so you have time to craft your design before it becomes too difficult to transform into the mold. So let's get right into it. Here, I'm adding the oil base of my recipe into the crock pot to get all of these oils melted down and blended together. And as you can see here, I have 5 finished designs, all of these colorful marble and gold crusted designs. Each one of these has a different shade of white and cream in the base because each one of these designs is a completely different recipe. Now the recipe that I'm creating here in this video is a cream to golden bar, and the base oils that you've seen me put in are all light colored hard oils with 2 that lean toward a bright golden color, and that is corn oil and mango butter. Now incorporating corn oils, canola oils, and hard butters that are golden in nature will give me this based neutral gold color as compared to the white color where there are only bright white and clear base oils used. Once the oils are melted, I'm going to keep an eye on the temperatures of both the lye water and the oils. It's fine to turn the low heat to high now, and as the oil temps are rising, the lye is settling to room temperature. I want to carefully add these two parts together when both of them are within 20 degrees from one another. Now you can work at hotter temperatures than you would if you weren't cooking it, but the key is to get them combined at similar temperatures so there isn't too much of a shock to the molecules when they start to bond. This can be anywhere in a window of 150 degrees, even up into 180 degrees, but typically you'll start to combine these somewhere around the 150-160 area. But if it's hotter, as long as they're similar in temperatures, you're okay to combine. No matter what your oil bases are, when you add the lye water solution, everything turns this honey golden color, so you won't see that final shade until once the bars are cut open. And even then, in some recipes, they tend to lighten up after a few days of curing. Now in some of these stone type recipes, I do add titanium dioxide to brighten the base, which works nicely. But titanium dioxide will only take you so far in this recipe. By adding it, it will only make it a creamier, brighter gold. It will not really turn this soap white without really overdoing it. So it's better to start off with the base color that you want from the beginning. And in a few minutes, I'll show you an example of exactly what I'm talking about. Now just before I walk away, I'm going to add in the last piece of mango butter that I set aside earlier. Now I'm just going to let this melt right on the surface. I'm not going to mix it, I'm just going to let the soap cook. And the oil from the mango butter should pool along the top of the soap as it melts. And we'll come back and check this in 20 to 30 minutes. When we come back in about 30 minutes, this recipe has quickly moved into the second stage of the gel phase, and I need to mix this together and any remaining oil that hasn't absorbed into the batter. Now here, I have a teaspoon of titanium dioxide that's been blended down into about 2 ounces of cold water. Now this is going to brighten the base color of the soap. This is not going to turn the recipe white. The oils in this recipe are going to make a cream to yellow based soap. So if you just keep adding more titanium dioxide, you're going to start to get a mottled, crackled look that will always end up being cream to yellow. You're not going to keep getting a whiter soap by adding more titanium dioxide. If you want a white soap, you have to use other oils for your base recipe. But this is going to brighten the base color, and the way I'm doing it here, I'm mixing it, but I'm really letting it cook, and I'm not really going to over mix this in. Now the attempt here is to get just a slight mottled appearance that looks like a morphing marble. Now you have to be a little bit careful with this, but when we're working with these sort of stone textures, if you do end up with a little bit of crackle, it still looks pretty organic and pretty, but I just want to go for that effect without going overboard. Now, if you've made hot process soap before and you notice that you get little white patches in your soap when you cut the bars open, you might think that this is where the titanium dioxide didn't blend well into the soap. Well, if you've dissolved it down in water first, that's an unlikely reason. What happens is sometimes when you scrape the dry soap from the sides back into the pot, it'll sometimes not pick up the color well, and you'll get this little patchy color variation. That happens in almost all hot process designs, and personally I like it. I think it makes it look a little bit more rustic, but if that's something that bothers you in your designs while you're creating, just be aware of that so that you can try and control for it while you're in the process of mixing your soap together. An hour later, we're ready to remove the heat, so it's time to turn off the crock pot, and you'll need to measure the temperature of your soap. The next step is to incorporate the rich luxury goat's milk. Now milk scorches at 180 degrees, and it even starts to get this unhappy orange color anywhere between 165 to 180, so we cannot add this into the soap until it cools to around 160 or below. So the soap right now at this stage is probably going to be somewhere between 180 and 200 degrees for you. Right here, as you can see, with the thermometer that I have in the pot, it's measuring right around the 180 mark. So we do need to get this to start cooling down before we can add in the milk. Now here I'm making a powdered goat's milk with 2 tablespoons of powder. That's also equal to 1 of the scoop measures that come in the can. And I'll be adding 2 ounces of cold water to that. Now if you're using condensed liquid goat's milk, you use 2 ounces. And if you're using fresh goat's milk, you're going to go ahead and use a full 4 ounces. The extra water being added at the end is not going to hurt this recipe. It's also going to loosen it up and give it more time to work with your colors when you get them into the mold. So if you've cooked this a little bit longer, you've reduced the water and your soap might be a little bit thicker. At the end of this recipe, as we're putting in the goat's milk, that's gonna loosen everything up and it's gonna make it easier to work with. Once my thermometer has dropped just below the 170 mark, I'm going to go ahead and add the goat's milk and mix it in. And then I'm going to add 1.5 ounces of fragrance oil. Now in this demonstration, I'm using Crisp Clean Air. Next, I'm going to separate this out into 3 parts. Each part is about a pound of soap, and 1 part is going to be left alone, while the other 2 are going to be colored a nice coral pink. Now both bowls are going to get Cosmic Caroline Mica, which is my favorite coral pink color, and these 2 pinks are going to be 2 different shades of the same color. So one bowl will get only 1/4 of a teaspoon, while the other bowl will get 1 1/4 teaspoon. Now once these are mixed well, we're ready to get this transferred over into our mold. Start off with any color that you choose and spoon a row of the soap into the bottom of the mold. Now without mixing them together, spoon another color alongside the first color and then dust this generously with a layer of gold mica. Now this line is going to create the look of a crusted gold geological fissure. Try not to mix these together and keep the lines and the soap separate. Once you're done with that, gently spoon another color on the top of the line and make sure that the design is not too symmetrical so that it looks organic. After each color, add another generous mica gold line and continue to do this alternating colors until the soap has been completely transferred. Now, colors that work well with the pencil lines are black activated charcoal, 24 karat gold mica, and you can even dust a line of the Cosmic Caroline between layers of that cream white, and it'll start looking like stretching veins in the fissures. You can also use white kaolin clay, although if you do choose to use the white kaolin clay, it's a far more subtle striation, and also it has a little bit more of a granule-y kind of a texture to it. So you can use any of the clay colors as extensions of your geological striations, but the micas tend to be more jeweled and iridescent looking, and that's really pretty when you're using these really soft, pretty colors. Now, once you have all the soap transferred, you can dust the top in gold, or you can mix 1/4 teaspoon of the Cosmic Caroline with about 1/2 ounce of sea salt and layer it on top for a crusted look. Then all you need to do is set this aside for 12 to 24 hours, and once it's set up, it's ready to cut. And once we're ready to unmold and slice these open, you can then see the jeweled tone of the contrasting pink coral and gold mica lines with this beautiful goat's milk and mango butter bar.